Thank you, Bill. I'm going to take this down because I'm not sure you can see me over it. And I apologize for not matching the headshot that was in your program today. But I have to say, I really am honored to be here. I am such a passionate fan of PBS to the core. And so it's exciting for me to get to talk about the broader PBS service for a bit. But I have to admit that when Paula asked me to step in for her yesterday, I was a little bit daunted. Frankly, I find the formal education community to be a little bit intimidating because you all have so much jargon. It's like you have a language of your own, from flipped classrooms to biometric learning, tangible computing, and MOOCs. There are a lot of ways that you really you speak among yourselves in a world that you understand. But to be honest, this is not so unlike public television, where we have more acronyms than Cookie Monster has cookies. But the similarities actually run quite a bit deeper than that. When PBS was founded over 4 decades ago, we were charged with using the power of television to engage, educate, and inspire our audiences. And today, our charge has expanded beyond television. We are focused on how media can make the greatest educational impact, whether that's over the airwaves, or on a mobile device, or over-the-top delivery services like Roku. We feel like it's our responsibility to lead the way in delivering innovative educational media, following in the footsteps of a long line of public media innovators. Before disruption was even a term, public television was focused on finding new and innovative ways to use the power of technology to improve the lives of the American people. As recently as the 1960s, television was just gaining a foothold as a tool for education. And those who saw its potential as a mechanism for learning were often considered outliers. Today, we know those people as pioneers, the ones who introduced us to the power of educational media. When Joan Gance Cooney, the founder of the Children's Television Network, conceptualized Sesame Street in 1969, the idea of using television for education was innovative. It was still unfamiliar to most parents and educators. And her idea was a really radical one, that entertainment techniques like commercial-style jingles and celebrity cameo appearances could be used to teach the alphabet and other preschool content. At that time, entertainment was a little bit suspect among most educators. Yet Sesame Street was the first TV program of its kind to base its content and production values on scientific research, and the first to tie its learning curriculum to measurable outcomes. Within 10 years, in 1979, 9 million American children were watching Sesame Street daily. And research was confirming its power to teach young children key skills. Another innovator who revolutionized the way we think about educational media is my personal hero, Fred Rogers, who developed the philosophy for the children's series, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, around the idea that social-emotional skills can provide a foundation for success in school and in life. Today, the critical importance of social-emotional skills is a core tenet of our approach to education at PBS. At the time, however, Fred Rogers' approach was pretty groundbreaking. On his program, he emphasized skills like managing frustration, paying attention, and playing imaginatively. He talked directly with, not to, children, initiating a dialogue and a conversation with his viewers. It may sound odd, but in many ways, the iconic words, "Won't you be my neighbor?" were an important precedent to the interactive media we create for children today. Mr. Rogers was always seizing on new technology as an opportunity to further connect with kids. So let me share one of my favorite clips.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. I hope you do. I like being with you. Today I have a book and a box. Can you guess what might be in this box? Well, it's a mouse. Not a live mouse, but a computer mouse. There it is. Have you ever seen a computer mouse? It's something that helps people work their computers. I don't know whether or not I've shown you my computer. It's in a little room over by the bathroom where I do my writing. I think I'll just take this mouse to its computer right now and show you. Come along.
So, look familiar to anyone? At the time, that kind of conversation with a preschooler was pretty cutting edge. There's something that set Mr. Rogers' embrace of technology apart, though. He wanted to introduce kids to it, but he didn't want it to be all-consuming. And that was the same idea with Sesame Street. So I want to watch a little bit more of that clip to show you how Mr. Rogers then continued this conversation with children.
And I think I'd like to go to the real kitchen. You know, your own imagination is far more wonderful than any computer could ever be. You know why? You're a living human being, and a computer is just a machine. Human beings are far more wonderful than machines. Let's go set up our own neighborhood of make-believe model in the real kitchen and think about it. Come on.
So for all the possibilities that he saw in technology to make a difference in the lives of young people, to give them a new place to play, Mr. Rogers really saw it merely as a tool that could help kids connect to other things in the real world. Some of his most famous advice is to look for the helpers in times of crisis. It's not about technology or innovation, it's about people. Similarly, Sesame Street was groundbreaking in their embrace of television as a medium for education. But do you know what their most innovative step was? They were the first ones to create an educational television show that parents would want to watch with their children. They invited celebrities on their show, they put jokes in it for parents too, and this was their way to prompt parents to engage them, to encourage them to sit down with their kids, and to give parents some tools that they could use to talk to their children about the alphabet, or science, or self-regulation. Through the years, we've heard from many parents who say that they learned English from watching Sesame Street with their children, and that's pretty groundbreaking, especially when you consider the real barriers to educational achievement in this country. There's a lot of debate about what the earliest indicators of school success are when it comes to identifying the factors that will help a child succeed. Some say that early math and literacy skills are the most important indicators of success. Others say it's the income level of the child's community. But according to the National Institutes of Health, a mother's reading skill is the greatest determinant of her child's future academic success. In other words, it's not about the child herself. What matters most is what her parents can do. Yet at the same time, it's estimated that 30 million adults in the United States lack the basic skills to read a book to a child. And that's a staggering number. There's no silver bullet to solve that problem. But at PBS, we truly think that media can play a role. The question is how? And to answer that question, I think we can learn a lot from the public media pioneers of the past, those people who saw media and technology as tools to bring people together, to foster real connections, and to build partnerships for learning. We must use media to help empower parents to be an active part of their children's education. And we must give teachers the resources they need to draw real connections between their work in the classroom and the jobs of tomorrow. We must use the power of technology to help encourage lifelong learning so that parents who might have missed out on the opportunities in their own childhoods can gain the skills and knowledge that position them for success. At PBS, it's this focus on the power of media to form communities and support education in and out of the classroom that is the promise we see in educational technology. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about how we're working at PBS to support education for our youngest learners, for students in the classroom, and for adults. Once again, we're using media not as an end in itself, but as a means to bring people together and to take advantage of the power of community to change lives. So let me begin with our youngest learners. Whenever we start a new initiative at PBS, we want to make sure we're starting with a real understanding of the need. This is especially true of our work in the PBS Kids service. So where do we start? We start with the parents. We just completed a study to try to identify what skills parents think are the most important when preparing their children for school. According to our study, nearly half of all parents of children between the ages of 2 and 6 worry that their child will not be adequately prepared to start elementary school. And when we asked them what skills they thought were most important for school readiness, we found some interesting results. Surprisingly, parents say that social emotional skills are at the top of the list, not necessarily literacy or numbers or letters. It's really social emotional skills. It's skills like cooperation and listening and following directions. This is what they think are the most important things their children need to learn before entering kindergarten. So where do parents turn when they want to teach their children the skills they need to enter school? They look to media. According to a recent survey from the Joan Gantz Cooney Center, parents report that children ages 2 to 4 have the highest exposure to educational media of any age group, averaging over 75 minutes per day viewing television or playing online. That's a pretty high number and a pretty big opportunity to reach kids with real educational materials. There's a perception that apps and computer games then dominate the educational media world, but in fact, that's not the case. While it's true that almost twice as many children have used mobile media compared to 2 years ago, and that the average amount of time that children spend using mobile devices has tripled, a recent report from Common Sense Media made it clear that television still dominates, especially for kids from lower income households. And this makes sense. Families may not have the budget for a home computer or a mobile device dedicated to their children's use. And some of these parents may not have strong literacy skills themselves, often making it unlikely that they would have many books available for their children at home. But they are likely to have a television, and it's even more likely that they're tuning in to PBS Kids. In fact, nationally, PBS Kids reaches 9 million low-income families. That tremendous reach is one reason why PBS has been focused on using the power of media to teach social emotional skills. So building on the legacy of Fred Rogers, in 2013, we launched Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. It's designed to give kids social emotional skills to handle the ups and downs of life. And I love this show. Daniel Tiger from the neighborhood of Make-Believe has now grown up and has a preschool tiger of his own. So let me show you a clip.
Now, why is there sand inside the house?
Because we wanted to make an inside beach.
Oh, right, okay. But real sand is not for a pretend inside beach. See the house? Real sand makes such a big mess on the floor.
But how can we make an inside beach without sand? That makes me so angry. Grr.
Daniel, remember the song?
When you feel so mad that you wanna roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. You count too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm calmer now.
Nice job, Daniel and Prince Wednesday.
Thank you.
So one of the things I love about this is it's modeling self-regulation skills for preschoolers. And it's also showing us that sometimes the moms get a little upset too, like when you bring sand in the house. But it's not just catchy songs and cute characters. Those songs are tools that parents can now use. They can use them throughout the day with their preschoolers to help them through different transitions or help them manage their feelings. We've put hundreds of hours of research into developing a whole transmedia suite of content to help teach social emotional skills through programs like this. No matter which platform they access, kids can now see these tools and interact with their favorite characters to reinforce the lessons that they've learned. This is more than just fun and games. Thanks to a grant from the U.S. Department of Education and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, we've been tracking how effective our PBS Kids content is in helping children prepare for school. And what we found is that we're not only helping children, we're also helping the families. In an 8-week summer research study implemented by Wested, families participated in weekly parent meetings where they learned about available PBS Kids math games and other hands-on learning activities that they could do at home with their children. Parents were encouraged to play PBS Kids cross-platform activities with their children at home for 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. Together, parents and children played online with on mobile devices with PBS Kids games like Cat in the Hat's Huff Puffatron, Curious George Meats Ball Launcher, and Sid the Science Kid's Weather Surprise. And at the end of the program, the researchers measured the kids' learning. Not surprisingly, these children made gains in basic math skills like numbers and counting. But the surprising thing is that we also saw gains with the parents. Parents then learned how to support their children in math, and they reported doing so more often after interacting with the PBS Kids content. The games were a leveler. They made it accessible and easy for parents to understand the content, and then fun to play these games along with their children. While I'm proud of these results, I know that there's a lot more we can do to use the power of media to empower parents. We see tremendous potential in providing parents tools they can use in their everyday lives. We launched the PBS Parents Play and Learn app as an experiment last spring. We actually debuted it at this conference a year ago. It's a simple app with activity ideas for parents based on the location. So let's show you an example.
PBS Kids,
Hi, neighbor.
the place for kids to grow and learn, where your child can build a foundation in literacy, math, and science. From the characters they love
Come on.
and the shows you trust. Now, there's a new mobile app designed just for parents to help you and your child play and learn wherever you go. Download the free PBS Parents Play and Learn app today and take the fun and learning of PBS Kids with you anytime, anywhere.
This app has now been downloaded more than 1.2 million times. We've heard from parents who say that it has made a really big difference in how they interact with their kids. One left a comment in the App Store saying, "I love every suggestion in this app, and the fact that it focuses on having fun in ordinary, everyday places. Sometimes parents need a little help brainstorming fun ways to engage with their children. Well, look no further." Another parent said, "Thanks to PBS for making fantastic, fun, and engaging apps for families. Love the parent and child play together opportunity this app gives us instead of just handing the phone off to your kids." As we build out our transmedia content, we're focused on ensuring that many of these tools focus on the skills kids will need to compete in tomorrow's economy, STEM skills. Clearly, as we move into a more connected, technology-driven world, the jobs that our children and our children's children will hold will increasingly be tied to science, technology, engineering, and math. In this context, it's especially alarming to note that the US ranks 25 among 34 countries in children's math achievement. But do you know what worries us even more? A recent PBS Kids survey found that nearly 30% of parents have actual anxiety about teaching and talking to their children about math. In part, this issue stems from the fact that 25% of parents find it hard to incorporate math into the conversations and activities at home. Math may seem harder to weave into natural discussions with their children, leaving time and resource-strapped parents unsure of where to begin. So if our kids are going to invent the next Google or WhatsApp, it's pretty clear they're going to need to have very strong math skills, and we're going to have to intervene when it matters most, before kids actually enter school. To address this need, we launched It All Adds Up, which aims to boost math learning at home and everywhere by providing resources for parents. With these free resources, parents can use their mobile phones or computers to help their children learn basic math skills. And this app is an example of some of those game ideas. We've assembled a team of early childhood educators and educational bloggers called Math Mentors, who will then provide parents tips and ideas for how to help their children learn early math concepts and integrate math activities into their daily lives. This gets to the heart of our efforts in education. We want to connect real people in real time with resources and tools that will make a difference in their lives. We want to help parents understand that any time can be learning time. And this is also where our local stations come into play. Our stations were created expressly to use the power of television for education. And 5 decades later, many of them have built up a wealth of experience and connections serving the unique needs of their local communities. We have examples, many examples, of how our local stations are helping make a difference in early childhood education. For example, in Kentucky, KET produced the Everyday Science for Preschoolers curriculum with instructional resources such as lesson plans, short video, and animated learning objects for caregivers to use. But one of the examples that stuck with me the most was from KBTC in Washington. In Tacoma, KBTC is working with the Housing Authority, the Assistant Superintendent of Schools, and the principal of an elementary school where half of the school's population come from homeless families. They are engaged in a powerful 5-year project to stabilize the housing of 50 families and hopefully give the children a solid foundation in school. Just 1 year into the project, they're already seeing results in a number of areas, including the formation of the school's first PTA, organized by some of the parents of families in the project. The Housing Authority head has said that KBTC has played a critical role in providing educational content, but also that the station's participation is helping keep all the partners at the table. He's thanked us for making a critical difference in the life of their community and for doing what no other media organization would ever do for them. But it points to the fact that if we are going to truly harness the power of media and technology to make a difference in children's lives, we need to meet children and families wherever they are. And that means not just at home, but also in the classroom. When Lyndon Johnson signed the Public Broadcasting Act in 1967, he established our nation's first and only public broadcasting system. At that historic moment, it would have made sense for him to comment on the power of media in our society. But instead of talking about media, the president spent the bulk of his time focused on one thing: education. The time has come, he said, to enlist the computer and the satellite, as well as the television and the radio, and to enlist them in the cause of education. He imagined the power that this sort of network could have to change lives if a great teacher could reach and inspire a student in a classroom far away. He dreamed of a time when the power of media could be purposefully applied to education, to broaden and strengthen our school system's power to teach. As Johnson said in 1967, yesterday's strangest dreams are today's headlines, and change is getting swifter every moment. Today, PBS and member stations are partnering with other publicly funded organizations to deliver unique, curriculum-based educational resources through PBS Learning Media, a free service for all teachers, students, and homeschooling families nationwide. The service includes classroom-ready, curriculum-based digital resources, including video and interactives, audio, documents, and in-depth lesson plans. You can browse by standards, grade level, subject area, and special collections. And these resources are available for free to pre-K through 12 classrooms all across the country through PBS member stations. So let me show you a clip about learning media.
He can swim with whales without missing his bus. She can step on stage with Shakespeare while sitting at her desk.
Great globe itself.
They can travel through time and get back before lunch. Today, learning has no limits. See how millions of students and teachers nationwide are using PBS Learning Media to ignite learning. Visit pbslearningmedia.org.
We're building on decades of expertise in producing and distributing educational media, and now delivering it on a platform that will allow teachers to share their ideas and innovate beyond a basic lesson plan. So let's hear from a teacher herself about her experience with learning media.
I'm a professor of social work at the University of Southern Mississippi. I love being a teacher. My students come from varied backgrounds. The majority of them have also been impacted by Hurricane Katrina. They bring a lot of their own experience into the classroom. When you're teaching students that have life experience, they really demand relevance. I use PBS to show my students some of the things that they will actually be encountering out in the field. They are engaged, they have comments and questions, we have great dialogues. PBS opens up a world that my students haven't seen before. I can teach somebody, or I can show them. PBS makes what I'm teaching come alive.
This is just one of the many stories we've heard about how PBS has influenced the lives of individual teachers. But the most important innovation of all, we're drawing on our partnerships to deliver content into the classrooms that teachers can easily and effectively implement into their lesson plans. We've partnered with organizations like NASA, the National Archives, and NPR. Just last month, PBS Learning Media introduced the Global Learning and Diplomacy Collection of digital resources to foster global awareness and insight into U.S. diplomacy initiatives for middle and high school students and educators. The U.S. Department of State and the Office of the First Lady helped share a wide variety of historical materials, and 10,000 students across the country participated in the inaugural webinar. Just yesterday, we enhanced the collection with materials to support the First Lady's trip to China. Can you imagine anyone else in the media world who could bring these kinds of partners together to enrich classrooms on such a wide scale? I certainly can't. And moving forward, we're going to continue to build dynamic partnerships with state and national organizations to align PBS Learning Media with state curriculum standards. We're working to implement progress tracking so that parents and teachers can individualize lesson plans to meet the needs of students. And we're developing new resources for teacher professional development to help teachers effectively integrate digital content and technology into their lesson plans. With education at the core of our mission, we've also come together with our local stations and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to launch American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen, a multi-year campaign designed to start a wider dialogue about the issue of high school graduation rates. This initiative puts faces on the numbers, the more than 1 million young people who fail to graduate each year, and shines a light on the programs and services that try to turn this awful situation around. In addition to national programming on shows like the PBS NewsHour, public television and radio stations in 36 states are working directly with civic and business leaders, local school districts, and other community partners to generate a better public understanding about the dropout risk factors, as well as to showcase what caring adults can do. As part of this project, we aired The Graduates, as well as TED Talks Education. We also shared a powerful documentary about a DC charter school, 180 Days, a year inside an American high school. I'd like to show you a clip.
When you work in a system that is in the middle of an education reform, there's not one thing that you can ease up on. You must take attendance every day. You must make sure that you are building relationships with your kids. You must make sure that you're referring to the Common Core standards. And it looks like being on your A game every single second, and you must be prepared. That's what working in a DC classroom looks like. There's no time to kick it and spend 15 minutes on a warm-up question, how was your summer? That ain't what it looks like in these parts, because we know that the kids are walking in with these deficits, and we know that every single second counts. It's a heavy job, but you know that going into the job. The kids can't read, and that is war.
Through documentaries like this, we're doing more than just shining a spotlight on the problem. We're also trying to shine a spotlight on possible solutions to help show parents, teachers, community members, and business leaders what is working when it comes to addressing the dropout crisis. It will take years to see if these efforts have truly paid off, but we're proud to use the power of our airwaves to share these important stories. But of course, education isn't only about children. Public television has always extended far beyond the classroom to learners of all ages. True education is about the process of lifelong learning, about using social media as a catalyst to stoke conversations about our shared experience as Americans and as human beings. Over the last few years, research about ongoing learning beyond the formal classroom has demonstrated that adults who engage in self-directed education are healthier, happier, and more involved in their communities. For these lifelong learners, television can be a powerful catalyst. And while broadcast remains at the core of our programming, digital media then gives us an opportunity to expand our reach beyond to explore the potential of education beyond the classroom. Of course, our lifelong learning aims are not limited to formal learning. Even more than that, we're interested in exploring what happens when people come together to discuss, deliberate, and even organize around issues that matter to them. Our job at PBS is to harness the power of media and community to create the impetus for that dialogue. So let me share a few examples. Late last August, we aired The March, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the historic Civil Rights March on Washington. In conjunction with the program, PBS.org featured The March at 50 online, which examined questions about the progress since the original watershed event. Local stations recorded video vignettes called Memories of the March from community members, and the PBS NewsHour featured them during its anniversary coverage. As a result of this initiative, more than 50 new local partnerships were formed across the country among urban leagues, civil rights groups, churches, and historical societies. On social media, the activities generated millions of impressions on Facebook and Twitter. We've learned a lot from this initiative, as well as from others like it. Some of you may be familiar with the groundbreaking initiative Makers, the Women Who Make America, which debuted on PBS in February 2013 as a 3-hour documentary and told the story of the modern women's movement. More than 5 million viewers saw this film and heard firsthand accounts from those who broke ground to give women more power in the workplace, in politics, and in society as a whole. We knew this program was going to be groundbreaking and inspirational when it aired. But as it turned out, the broadcast was only the beginning. On the night Makers aired, viewers posted 50,000 tweets inspired by the program, which generated countless threads of conversation about these groundbreaking women. And that social media conversation is still continuing today. In cities and towns across the country, PBS stations have brought makers home by profiling local makers in their communities. They're hosting screenings and panel discussions and creating outreach programs and educational materials for thousands of schools and educators. That is a ripple effect that significant, compelling media can and should have. And that ripple effect is the impact that those of us who work in public media aspire to daily, to support the creation of content that has the ability to change lives and frame history in a new light. On April 15th of this year, we'll premiere Ken Burns' new documentary, The Address, which unlocks Lincoln's most famous words as a group of students in Vermont work to memorize the Gettysburg Address. A nationwide outreach program will challenge all Americans, especially students, to do the same. Let me show you a trailer. think we've lost audio. Okay, we're going to give it one more second to see if we can try. They think they found a solution. I promise you it's worth waiting for. This is a really great program. Here we go. It's like a game. We'll give you the visuals and then the audio later. You can try to piece it together. Are we going to try it one more time? Yep. Okay. So how many of you are Ken Burns fans? Okay, so you're okay waiting for a minute to get a sneak preview. How many of you have memorized the Gettysburg Address? Just a few people. Does anyone do that in their schools? Oh, I see 2 hands. All right, so this documentary is going to challenge many more schools to try to take this on. I think what I'm going to do is keep going just so we don't run out of time. But as soon as you get it, please signal, because it'd be fun. It'd be really fun to share this with you. So that's coming in April, and hopefully you'll get a sneak peek. Not many people have seen it yet. So over the past few years, we've seen really great success in initiatives that are actually led by our member stations. You met Bill at the beginning of this session from the local station here, and I've talked about Kentucky and a few others. Our stations are increasing audiences and spurring community engagement and sparking national and local conversations around many topics of importance and relevance. Within the PBS system, we're finding that our local stations are an incubator for innovative ideas, and they have great ideas for how to facilitate the process of that conversation in their local communities. For example, Vegas PBS in Nevada has the GOAL program, which is an online training program that provides a modular format for job and technical training in areas that range from healthcare to financial services. They have a particularly popular courses in food handling and hotel English for training local workers. Vegas PBS is uniquely positioned to provide this type of training because of the deep community connections and partnerships the station has built over the last 40 years. But its capacity in media, their capacity in media creation and distribution also allows the station to provide compelling content in formats that are easy to use and access. Similarly, in Kentucky, KET has built on decades of work in education to provide adult GED courses with online coursework and lectures. Broadcast and digital media are an important part of this larger ecosystem that provides access to early and continued learning tools. But those things are only a part. The solution to our nation's educational challenges lie not in the technology, but in our communities. So I'd like to end with a story that makes it clear just how transformative media can be. And I want to take you back to Tacoma, Washington. I mentioned this station earlier. I want to tell you a story about a boy named Tyler Martin. Tyler lives in Tacoma's Hilltop neighborhood. For many years, his family didn't know where their next meal was going to come from as they moved from shelter to shelter. But now they're finally in a stable housing project. Tyler is short with spiky blonde hair. He carries himself like a tank. He seems much stronger and sturdier than he actually is. And he has his shoulders hunched forward like he's carrying the weight of the world. For Tyler, learning has been difficult. He has trouble paying attention. He was kicked out of kindergarten for being disruptive to other students, and school officials called his father every day to report behavior problems. When his parents enrolled him in a PBS Kids summer camp over spring break, many worried that he would distract the other kids and the teacher, and many also doubted that he would make many learning gains. But they were wrong about Tyler. The PBS Kids games that they played in camp, from Curious George and the Cat in the Hat, sparked his imagination. For the first time, he was engaged, he was excited, and he was having fun. He sat up straight and started asking questions. The games allowed him to feel a sense of mastery in a safe space, and he was able to discover that learner that was hiding deep within. He went back to school with a whole new attitude, and soon Tyler received his first ever SOAR award for being safe, on task, having an awesome attitude, and being respectful. And at the end of the school year, Tyler won the McCarver Elementary Outstanding Student Award. They took a photo of him posed with the shiny red bicycle he won, and this was the first time many at the school had ever seen him smile. And I have to tell you, we have a copy of this picture in our offices at PBS Kids Digital. Tyler doesn't look like he has a lot of experience smiling. It's a little bit more like a grimace, but he's clearly really proud of that bicycle. He's just clutching it. So it all started with this PBS Kids game. It started with a way of finding a way to break through to Tyler, to engage him, and to spark something really incredible within him. On the last day of camp, when his dad came to pick Tyler up, the director pulled him aside to tell him about the transformation she had witnessed. And Tyler's dad started crying. He said, "No one has ever told me that Tyler was good at anything before." That's a pretty powerful story. And you may join me in believing that Paula is a little bit cruel for asking a pregnant woman to share such an emotional story with you today. But I think if you look at that story, some might look at it and think that the lesson is that the game made a difference. And some might look at it and say, it's a great example of how technology broke through to reach one little boy. But what I think made the difference is that the community came together to support Tyler. We had community support so that his family had a stable housing situation. We had his dad involved and talking to the school every day. We had our local public television station implementing content that was created with the advice of experts in the educational technology industries. And we had a group of engaged adults to support and encourage Tyler as he explored these new media tools, to recognize when suddenly something had sparked his interest. Although I think all of us in this room would like to say it was a game, I think it was the community involvement that truly made a difference. As we look ahead to the future of technology and education, I think that this is truly where the real challenge is and where the real opportunity lies, in our communities. How can we use the power of media to empower parents to help their children learn, even before they enter the classroom? How can we leverage community relationships to help bring lesson plans to life on new digital platforms in the classroom? And how can we take advantage of the tremendous promise of digital media to help encourage lifelong learning so that people of all ages can engage with the world around them? Even with the most advanced digital tools, parents can't do it alone. Neither can teachers or business leaders. But working together, I believe that we can measurably improve education in this country. In order to answer the greatest challenge of our time, we must come together and use media as a way to build connections and foster community. This is our challenge and our opportunity. And I hope that we can all come together as one larger educational community to help find solutions. Thank you. And now I would like to show you a clip from the address. I hope. You got it?
on November 9th. Quiet battle.
I wish you could see all the people
cemetery
scrambling
built
back here trying to make this work for you.
There the previous July. Greatest battle ever fought on American soil.
All right.
The president's speech lasted just 2 minutes. He started off by
Should we just stop
reminding
it?
us that it had
think we
been
should go ahead and
only
stop.
87 years since the founding of the republic.
Just cut it.
And then went on to building the Union cause.
We have a little time for questions. So if anyone has a question, there's a microphone here in the middle of the room. And there are PBS, all kinds of PBS folks from all different disciplines on hand to help answer questions. Hi, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kevin Morgan from Pro Literacy. I'm looking forward to the new Ken Burns documentary. I just wanted to congratulate you. We focus on adult literacy at my organization, and a lot of times when I come to these seminars, I feel like I'm in no man's land between K through 12 and higher education. So not many people make the correlation between improving education holistically, not only with kids, but if they go home to a low literacy household, you're not really getting the return on investment that's made in either pre-K or K through 12. So
Right.
I was really happy that you made that correlation because the mother's literacy skill and the father's literacy skill is a direct influence on childhood education performance. So I just thought it was great that you made that analogy because not a lot of people get that. So I like the fact that PBS does.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
PBS has been committed to lifelong learning for a long time. I mentioned the program at KET that works on adult GED programs, but there are all kinds of other resources that are out there to help inspire learners really at any age, try to get them engaged with content. Do we have another question?
Sure. Tom Isaacson, Northern Michigan University. I was wondering if you could comment. You mentioned Roku, right, as a part of your introduction. What other kinds of things is PBS looking into technologically that might change the interface or change the opportunity to reach people? My wife and I in our own family show kids PBS almost nonstop is about all our kids would see if they see video. And when we turned off cable, we added Roku purely because we could get PBS and local content. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if you could comment on anything else that's happening in that area.
I think what's really important to PBS is being where our audiences are and making sure that we're as accessible to as many Americans as possible. That's core to our mission. And so, yes, we've launched PBS Kids and PBS channels on Roku. Our content is on Netflix and on Amazon. It's also, we have a lot of streaming content on pbs.org and pbskids.org. We have some of the largest libraries of free streaming content of any media organization. And there's also a PBS channel on Apple TV. We're continuing just constantly to watch the landscape and see where might our audiences be next, because we know they're going to be looking for our content. And if we're not there, then they might not ever come back. We need to make sure that we're where people need us.
Hi, Norman Cohen from NBC Learn. One thing you were talking about when you were talking about learning media is lesson plans, and this is a question, I guess, for teachers, how you sort of integrate PBS media, but you said they're also very flexible. Wonder if you could go into a little bit more detail about how lesson plans are used by teachers on learning media.
I'm going to invite up Alicia Levi, who's from PBS Learning Media, to tell us a little more about it.
Hi. Let me first say that I think Sarah did a great job both standing in for Paula and I think dealing with what any educator in this room deals with on a regular basis when your technology doesn't keep track with your lesson. It's generally a challenge. To address your specific question, PBS Learning Media really is designed with an educator in mind. It's a platform for educators to be able to leverage media in a modular fashion in classrooms, which I think is really where we are today. So when we talk about lesson plans or interactives or videos, any of the resources that are available really are contextualized to enable educators to use them in a variety of ways.
Thanks.
Quick comment, James Britton, Purdue University. I love the Digital Studios remixed mashups, particularly Bob Ross. I think that really appeals to a younger crowd. Maybe you could comment a little more on how you're trying to capitalize, even using that to appeal to the younger audiences.
Sure. PBS Digital Studios, and I'm looking at Kevin Dando in case you want to jump in on any of this. PBS Digital Studios really is taking a very innovative approach to looking at how PBS might kind of redefine itself in a YouTube-type world. What is shorter? What are some shorter content pieces, some non-standard broadcast lengths that we could explore that very much are like PBS? So some of the most popular ones are the Idea Channel. I work in kids' games, and so I regularly watch the game/show. Another really interesting one is Blank on Blank, where they take historic interviews with different persons and then put animations along with it. So you're kind of watching these interviews come to life. So it's a really interesting experiment, and it's getting a really nice reach at this point. And I know that the age numbers are skewing a little bit differently. Kevin, do you know? Significantly differently. So like.
Much younger. I know it's by orders of magnitude compared lower than the broadcast.
So I think we're getting a lot of folks in that kind of like 25 to 35, 40 range, which is younger than most of our broadcast audience when we're talking about the general audience program. Obviously, the stuff I work on is much younger than that, 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. But it is beginning to capture some new audience, and I think it's been a good experiment for us. So I'm glad that you mentioned it, and I think if you haven't seen PBS Digital Studios, definitely check it out. You can see it at pbs.org, our video player online, or you can also find the channel on YouTube.
Hi, hello, I'm Jim Crotty, and I cover education for Forbes, and you did an excellent, excellent job. And
thank you.
I also have a documentary showing here tomorrow at the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema called Crotty's Kids, and it's about how debate, and mentorship, and great books, shared inquiry can really, move the needle with young men in particular in the inner cities. So I really got a lot out of your attempts at PBS to get the parents involved, because one of the things I experienced was that these kids were, reading and discussing Heidegger and Foucault and debating at this super high level, and then mom, particularly mom, because they're often single moms, didn't understand why Christian or Ryan had to be away at debate tournaments on the weekend and why they were at the computer all night, and so there's this kind of gap, this gap in understanding of what's really required to be great. And so anything I can do to help you out, or maybe we can talk about getting my documentary to help you with this whole dropout thing, because that's a big deal, and we share the same desire to solve it. Thank you so much.
And your documentary is tomorrow, you said?
Yeah, it's at 1:30, I think. Yeah, 1:30 at the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema. Crotty's Kids.
I think this reminds me of just one story in the preschool arena. When we were first doing a survey with parents about how to interact with them about teaching in their children, education in their children, we started with the idea, you need to sit down and read with your child every night. And particularly among low-income families, there was a lot of pushback to that message. The immediate response was very defensive, like, no, my kid goes to school to learn that. I don't have time. Don't put all this pressure on me. That's kind of how they heard it. And so we stepped back and took a minute just to kind of look at all of our resources and think about a different way to kind of encourage parents to interact with their children in educational ways. So we tried the message, anytime is learning time, and gave them little tips and ideas, many of which then became part of that PBS Parents Play and Learn app we mentioned. That were things like, when you're in the grocery store, ask your child to point out the letter C. When you're waiting for the food to come at the restaurant, use those little sugar packets on the table and start making them into patterns and organizing them. That's a really foundational math skill and really important. And parents walked away from that feeling empowered and excited. Like all of a sudden, they had tools to help engage with their children around learning. It wasn't any more time than we were asking when it came to reading, but it was just a different way of presenting it. So I think, you're talking about much older kids, but I think there's something we can do even early to help parents kind of track a little better with their children's learning. Another question?
Yeah, hi. I'm Nisha Ligon. I'm series producer of Ubongo Kids, which is a Tanzanian math education cartoon. And what we're doing in Tanzania seems very new there, and it's really popular. But like, I grew up on PBS, you know, there's so much great content here. And what I was wondering is, do you have programs, and are you open to partnerships to share the content and get it broadcast and distributed internationally, especially in developing countries?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of PBS programs are distributed internationally. It goes actually through the producers themselves. PBS is unusual in that we broadcast, but only broadcast in the US, and then our producers then can license the content and bring it to other countries. I think one of the most famous examples is Sesame Street, which actually has on-the-ground production groups all over the world creating localized versions of Sesame Street. So yes, there are partnerships and opportunities there. With that, I think we're out of time. I was told that because we weren't able to get the address that Ken Burns clipped together, PBS is going to tweet it out for you all to take a look. Already done. So just look at the PBS Twitter account? Yep. Okay, so you heard it first. You can watch it straight from Twitter. Thank you so much.